Hello, good evening. Sitting here looking at a beautiful sunset and studying the book of Lamentations. Lamentations was written about the same time as Jeremiah, so they think maybe Jeremiah actually wrote it, but they don't know for sure. Around 575 years before Christ's birth, BC. It's just 5 chapters, and it's kind of like Psalms. They're like poems, 5 poems in Hebrew, and they're talking about the time when the Babylonians seized Israel and took over and Jerusalem and burnt down the temple, and these things that we've been talking about that God allowed to happen because they wouldn't turn away from their wicked ways. And it's kind of the grieving process. So have you ever heard about the 5 stages of grief? So you have denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and acceptance. It's the 5 stages of grief whenever we lose something. And their loss, first it was kind of denial. They didn't believe that God was actually going to punish them. They thought they had it under control. Like, we don't need God, we can do this. And then suddenly God allows this other country to come in and conquer them and take them captive in exile. And then bargaining, well, I think even in Lamentations, you'll find some verses where they're like, why did we do it? We shouldn't have done it. They kind of like, was it really that bad? You know, that kind of like bargaining thing of our before humility, right? And then also anger. Have you ever been angry at God for doing something, taking something away, or you ending up in jail or some kind of consequence or divorce over something that went wrong, and we get angry at God. And then you have depression. And Lamentations are a lot of depression, a lot of venting feelings to God. And then now on earth, the 5 stages of grief end with acceptance, accepting the loss. But in the book of Lamentation, it ends with hope, because God still promises to restore us. So he can take away and punish, but he will also restore us, because that's what he does and that's who he is. So like in chapter 1, in verse 9, she did not consider her destiny, therefore her collapse was awesome. And not awesome as in wonderfully great, but just as in great, a great collapse, because she didn't consider her destiny. This talks about poor judgment, right? And then about in chapter 2, verse 3, he has cut off in fierce anger every horn of Israel. He has drawn back his right hand. He abandoned them. God abandoned them. But then in chapter 3, verse 21, this I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. Though the Lord's mercies, through the Lord's mercies, we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should hope and wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. For the Lord will not cast off forever. Though he causes grief, yet he will show compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. For he does not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men. Let us search out and examine our ways and turn back to the Lord. And those are the great promises of God.